Greetings and welcome to your destination. You've reached the Psychological Wellness Hub. We aim to help you build your knowledge and wellness around better understanding mental health and psychological concepts. Welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is another psychological wellness skill. That is Psychotherapy Skill 1, Finding the Right Therapist. Remember to watch the videos on psychotherapy in general to get further information on what psychotherapy is. See the links in the description below. Psychotherapy treatment, a quick review. Psychotherapy is a form of talk treatment that focuses primarily on mental health, substance use disorders, or other medical conditions, and many more. It's a journey of self-discovery and healing. Therapy involves you and your therapist working as a team. As a team works together to make connections with your problems, you can relate to those internal forces that keep the problems going. The team works together to look inside as well as look outside of you with the intention to understand the inner and outer workings of the problems in lives, how the problem lives and breathes. You are the navigator and the therapist is a guide to help you understand and make use of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. This is in an effort to identify and, if necessary, make changes for the positive and to promote healing. Why find a right psychotherapist? First thing first, a right psychotherapist is of no value to you if you don't bring forth your abilities. We'll talk more about this below and in future videos. Finding the right therapist is important to you for your recovery. Finding the right therapist can create a safe environment for your recovery. What is the value in finding the right therapist for your psychotherapy treatment? You'll become empowered by the relationship. Building trust in this relationship helps build trust in yourself. Building confidence in yourself. Knowledge is power. What does finding the right psychotherapist do to our psychological wellness? Psychotherapists are often trained differently. However, they all work towards helping you look at the interaction of your thoughts, feelings, motivations, perceptions, identity, and more. This relationship is designed to help you work together to get through the static and barriers that cause your difficulties and suffering. This is to assist you in moving towards your recovery goals. It helps you to become better at working through your problems more effectively. What are some barriers to finding the right therapist? Here's a brief list of some barriers. Excessive doubt, excessive excuses, I can't. Psychotherapy is like a lot of things that are hard in the beginning but get easier in the end. It's like any activity you can imagine that was tough in the beginning but worthwhile in the end. For example, things like learning a new skill, raising a child, learning to ride a bike, your first job interview compared to the most recent one. It gets easier. Things like exercise getting easier over time, taking care of a pet, fixing something, paying down a bill, and more. Therapy is about dealing with several things, but it's also about going towards things that we didn't want to face on our own or alone. So we went to a professional. Some therapies hit this more directly, while others work towards it over time. Some people, before they start therapy, look at it in a mixed way. Two competing forces. I want it and I don't want to do it. If the second one becomes stronger when in therapy, then this prevents the healing process. Listening to the idea that you have to find the perfect therapist. Allow yourself some flexibility with this concept. You will hear advice out there that you need to leave the therapist immediately if you don't have a good feel. I would caution you to take time to develop this relationship, just like learning any new skill we are trying on in life. Some of you may have been hurt before, or a lot in life, and those fears and expectations may be unconscious, and sometimes consciously played out onto the therapist in the beginning. Then your personality protection system goes into overdrive. Imagine you had a bad experience with banks in the past. You walk into a new bank in the present. Imagine all those past fears you have in your body and your mind tense up as you walk into the door looking for some reason that this bank is going to hurt you like it happened before with the last bank. So you will be on a hair trigger for anything that might resemble a threat. A teller is making a withdrawal for you that you requested and at the same time mentions a credit card offered by the bank. You feel like the teller is trying to con you or hurt you like the last one did. And you have a strong reaction to this teller and do not return to the bank. Now let's imagine after meeting with a therapist for a number of sessions and you like the therapist and start to feel safe. Now maybe it's your 5th session and your therapist points out something you said earlier about feeling insecure in relationships, and you feel like this therapist is saying, by saying this, that they're insulting you and bringing up this painful thing, trying to hurt you in some way. Like they're being insulting to you to make you feel bad like others did. You do not bring this up in the therapy at the moment or later, and you never go back to the therapist. You leave seeing this therapist in a bad way rather than a professional doing their job to help you make connections to the goals and the insights you're working towards. One might fall into this trap of rating how we feel in the moment as how we will always feel, forgetting that we don't always feel bad. So if we carry this over into the example used above, One might fall into the trap of deducting how you experience this therapist in the moment as how you will always feel about them. This could be a loss for you, especially if you missed out on what is happening and go from therapist to therapist repeating this pattern over and over again. This pattern may become more about running from your difficulties rather than finding the right therapist. Now, mind you, if your therapist does these things I mentioned here shortly and in future videos, you may want to consider leaving that service and not returning. Just a couple examples include making sexual advances towards you, or trying to have an intimate relationship with you, physically hurting you, financially trying to or actually exploiting you, and perhaps your family. We do not mean expecting financial payment for services or current services you received as a financial exploitation. Tapping into and finding the right psychotherapist step by step. Watch more videos on this topic from the channel. Research the therapist and types of therapy they offer and find a fit for yourself. Remember that all therapies can help. Remember that each therapy is not a fix for everything or every single struggle you have. You might have to complete more than one type of therapy to get the maximum coverage for what you need. Many therapists are trained in several types of therapy, so you may not have to need to go to a different therapist in order to address more than one issue. Take a personal inventory. Keep things simple, one day at a time, step by step. Don't overcomplicate the process of finding the right therapist. A good enough therapist is better than avoiding your issues by running from one therapist to another. Just remember that. And remember to relate to yourself daily. Examples. I'm going to read some examples of individuals who tap into finding the right therapist in their lives. Please note these are not real people, but their stories represent real scenarios. Listen while I tell you about the story. Listen for how they found the right therapist while I read. Jen is a woman in her 40s who wants to go to therapy, but at the same time doesn't want to go to therapy, for she fears she will have to face that she might have some kind of label or diagnosis. For this might mean she has a flaw in her mind. Each time she works up the courage, as her appointment date is coming, she cancels it before it comes. Jen finally is able to build the courage and actions to get into the therapist's office. After they complete the assessment, the therapist asks more about what Jen would like to work on. Jen looks at the therapist like a deer in headlights, internally feeling anxious about the question. The therapist tries to help her out by making some suggestions based on what she had talked about previously. Jen says no thanks to the therapist and leaves the appointment immediately. Looking at efforts by Jen. Is Jen looking at the right things to get herself into therapy? Might she be more concerned about her focus on a diagnosis or problem and her comfort level with this versus trying to actually solve those problems? Could this be a barrier for her to finding someone who is the right therapist for her? Mary is a single mother of 4 children who are still young. Mary is challenged every day with caring for others and their needs. Mary has conflicts around caring for others and their own needs, as well as some anxiety. Mary wants to get into therapy but feels stuck. She has heard many good things about therapy, but also some bad things, and doesn't want to get the wrong therapist. She feels she doesn't know where to start and is worried about feeling comfortable with the therapist, like she heard before. Looking at her efforts, could Mary be not meaning to disrupt her efforts before she even gets started? Could Mary tap into some of the old skills? Like when she was having children, she researched some ways to best care for her children and talked to family and friends about those ways to take care of children. She could use the same concepts here to help find a therapist. There are many directories out there, including going through her insurance company. Mary wants to have a therapist she feels comfortable with. This is reasonable, as long as she remembers that she will have to face some difficult things. As long as when she's evaluating these things, she doesn't confuse or equate her therapist with her distress. The cost of doing that is that she will never find balance between being comfortable with a therapist and dealing with her difficulties she comes to therapy to work through. She will continue to equate the therapy itself instead of her issues as a barrier to finding comfort. This will lead her down a path, unfortunately, of confusion and wonder why she can't find someone to work with or to be comfortable with. Eric is a college student. Eric studies and works and gets reasonable grades. He has hopes one day to become an architect. He reminds himself on this daily by placing pictures of structures around his room. He rides his bike to keep regular fresh air. He rides his bike to school looking at the buildings on the way to campus. Eric is on a mission to find the right therapist. Eric on the surface is quite tense each time he meets a new therapist. He has fears, doubts, and reservations, but not exactly sure why. On a small degree, consciously, Eric is aware of his history and the need to be careful. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg, only the periscope of the nuclear sub when it comes to his concerns. Unconsciously, Eric is unaware of how his past history is influencing this in a big way. Eric has a history of abuse and has been in some quite hairy experiences where he almost got hurt or came close to death. Each time he meets a new therapist, his self or personality protection system goes into overdrive, though he is not aware of this. One time, Eric's friend gave him a ride to the therapist appointment, and the friend noticed Eric seemed to be restless and on edge, so the friend asked Eric if he was okay. Eric replied that he was fine, but began wringing his hands together. Eric has tried 25 different therapists since he started college last year. While Eric is not fully aware of the whole picture of why he leaves therapy, all he knows is he starts to feel something early in the therapy and equates this as not liking the therapist. Eventually, Eric's friends start to check in on him more about this, and they come to a consensus and share with Eric that he might be running from his issues rather than a therapist. Eric is reluctant about accepting this idea, but one day when he is trying a new therapist, he tells his therapist, "I might have a problem with running away from therapy, and it might have to do with my past." He and the therapist talk about this and agree as a team that in the beginning of therapy, the goal is to keep him from avoiding his issues, which may get in the way of him reaching his goals. Eric agrees with this. Eric agrees that they will face them over time at a pace that is tolerable for Eric. But the therapist's job is to find balance between encouraging Eric to face his issues in therapy independently, and the therapist would do their part to help Eric keep working towards his goals. Eric continues his journey and takes a continued stand to remain with his therapist. He still has feelings at times towards his therapist. These are a mixture of warm feelings for the help and frustrating feelings for them working together to face his difficulties that bring up pain from the past. Eric hangs in there, and over time, building tolerance to some of these feelings, and he gets stronger. He starts finding the sources of his difficulties and works through them with his therapist and on his own when he is not in the therapist's office. Eric continues to make progress over time, remaining with his therapist, and feels good about this decision. We hope you found today's topic was useful for yourself and someone else. Let us know if it was by commenting below. Let us know what topics you'd like to hear about or what could be useful to you by commenting below. We'll take it under consideration. If you like what you heard today and would like to hear more from Destination Psychological Wellness Hub, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. This will help you get the newest content produced by the channel to you. Please tell all your friends and family about the channel and share this and other videos with them on the channel. Encourage them to like and subscribe. And as always, we hope your psychological wellness continues to grow with us in this community. Thank you.